Everquest is a game that is pretty long in the tooth at this point, but it is still beloved by many, with monthly logins around 80,000 or so based off of data we got right around 2020. The game has a loyal and eager fan base. But what about the players that are not logging in today? What about the Everquest players that have moved on either to other MMOs, flashier MMOs, new MMOs, or to other games entirely, single player games? What about the players that are out playing Baldur's Gate 3 or Halo Infinite or Elden Ring? What would it take to make you drop Outer Wilds and go back to Everquest? What would it take for you, someone who may have never played Everquest, to play it? And really, what would it take for Everquest to once again challenge for the throne of the biggest MMO? What would it take for them to go head to head with World of Warcraft again? What about a new game engine? Now, this isn't just about graphics, but that is a huge part of it. A new engine would bring with it new UIs, new quality of life changes, perhaps even better performance. With games currently released or in development being made in both Unity and Unreal Engine, it makes one wonder, what would Everquest look like in one of those engines? A complete reworked client in, say, Unreal Engine or Unreal Engine 5. Justin Cater has been working on a project in Unreal Engine 5, and while I don't know if this is something they plan to release now or in the future, watching the videos Justin has put out, as well as Nathan Napalm's recent video on Lantern EQ, got me really thinking about what the future of Everquest could look like in a new engine, whether that's Unity or Unreal Engine. In the past, we have had recreations of specific zones in Unreal Engine that really just make you salivate if graphics are your thing. But it's a lot more than just that. Still, it's hard to get past how dated Everquest is. But we've seen reworks for other games that really haven't worked out. Games like RuneScape and Ultima Online have created entirely new clients to varying levels of success or failure. Not everyone who played those games in the past wants to see it remade in the latest engine. After all, change is f***ing scary, right? But that's not necessarily the demographic this video is about. This is all about the players who have never played EQ, or those who have in the past but don't feel the pull as strongly as they once did. For me, a new engine would be an immediate draw. Recreating old zones in high fidelity, adding in new sound effects and music and lighting can make a major difference. Now, I've done this in the past with another game, but I wanted to show a bit of what I mean by juicing up some of these sound effects here. First, we've got some Everquest gameplay with the full sound effects and current graphics in its current live engine. Take a look and take a listen. And for those of you who have played, enjoy the nostalgia. Now consider Justin's work in Unreal Engine 5 with some of the sound effects from original Everquest. I have to say, this is one of the better Unreal Engine 5 things I have seen. I really think they have done a great job so far, and I hope that they continue. And Justin, if you see this video, because I will be tagging you and I will be linking your video down below, thank you so much for making such a cool thing. I hope that this continues. Let me know down in the comments. And then finally, what about a complete rework of it with new sound effects, new music, all with the new Unreal Engine 5 from Justin Cater? Would you play this game today if it was released? If so, would it be the environment, or would it be something like a new UI that drew you back in? Or would it have to be some kind of changes to the actual mechanics of the game? But maybe it's not something that big. Maybe it's not something as huge and necessary as a complete engine rework. Maybe there's something a little more monetary to what the reason why you haven't returned. There's another discussion to be had when it comes to Everquest, and it's its payment model. Over the decades, Everquest has gone from a purely subscription with box price expansions game to a pseudo free-to-play model with a cash shop and a subscription. Over the years, the cash shop has grown to include things like experience potions, bag space, mounts, cosmetics, minor buffs, all that are mostly useless, and of course heroic character level boosts. And some small armor pieces here and there that are really only to help you get started and will not impact you in the later game. Now this has been further complicated by the addition of Krono, an in-game tradable currency that can be purchased for real money, with only a slight premium off of the normal subscription fee. This, like the WoW token, has become a sort of parallel to RMTs, but in Everquest, as many will tell you, it is substantially worse, or better, depending on their opinion of RMTs. On top of this, there are also servers only accessible via subscription, which includes the very popular progression servers, thus locking free-to-play players out of content even further than current free-to-play restrictions do. And then add perks on top of that, which are a subscription that gives certain bonuses for nominal fees that you pay each month. The web of monetization has come along gradually, but to someone coming in today in 2022 or 2023, it may seem confusing, excessive, or both. I wouldn't go as far as to call Everquest pay to win, but it is at least at this point very heavily monetized, with no signs of that stopping anytime soon. And with any game that is heavily monetized, that begs the question, would changes make you play? In defense of Everquest, I will say that I played the game for at least a decade since its launch, and at all different points in its development. And outside of some experience potions and the Heroes Forge cosmetic armor feature, cause I wanna look cool and pretty, but outside of that, I really never felt the need to pay anything extra. The cash shop felt voluntary, and even the perks, while helpful, still, again, mostly felt like something you picked to do, not something you had to do. As heavily monetized as it is, it doesn't feel predatory. Yet. But I can also understand why that's a whole lot to ask when you have that many ways for the game to take your money. So, if the monetization, if the lack of a complete rework and a new engine, if that wouldn't sway you, what about a third Everquest? Would you play an entirely new game based off of the IP? Okay, now this is where, if you are a fan of Everquest, you may want to turn around, mute this video, go outside, go yell at a tree, hug your favorite stuffed animal, find a friend to commiserate with, go for a swim, really do anything else, because we're about to talk about something so gut-wrenching, so terrifying, so infuriating. You might cry. Hell, I might cry too. 3, 2, 1. Everquest Next was, for a few exciting years, the future of Everquest. As John Smedley puts it back in 2012, what we are building is something that we will be proud to call Everquest. It will be the largest sandbox-style MMO ever designed. We are remaking Norath unlike anything you've ever seen, but you'll recognize it. The game was later revealed at SOE Live, doubling down with the addition of Everquest Landmark, a construction-based world that could feed player constructions into the world of Everquest Next, something that had in a very small way already been experimented with the Player Studio, which allowed players to design and create items to be sold on the marketplace for real money, which causes some potentially ethical concerns because of the certain splits that were used, but that's probably something for another video. But it was still an interesting approach, harnessing the passions of players to create in your in-game world, messy ethics aside. The Landmarks Alpha came in 2014, an empty world to experiment with in EQN's tech. And with it came essentially a $60 price tag for a game that was in alpha. I remember the day my wife gifted me a code to Landmark, and honestly, I was thrilled. I jumped in and began playing around. There were things that were fun about the game, and it had some promise. It wasn't my style, but I felt like it was all leading to something, especially when they added combat toward the tail end of the saga. Few of us could have expected that that something was a dead end. Meanwhile, Everquest Next was promising a lot. First, it was the voxel-based world, a fully destructible world that could be reshaped. parkour-like movement, world-changing quests that sound like they might have been some inspiration for how Ashes of Creation is looking at nodes, and a collaboration with Storybricks to add better branching AI to their NPCs. Hell, it was so sandboxy, you could even change classes, or rather collect them. It didn't sound very Everquest-like to me, even at the time, but it was least interesting. And it was at least still Nora. And then it just all kind of crashed. 2015 saw SOE sold off to Columbus Nova, which started years of drama, layoffs, and departures. Everquest Next development and Landmark's pseudo-testing state limped along for a little while longer, ultimately ending in 2016 for Everquest Next and 2017 for Landmark, shortly after their actual launch. The saga of Everquest Next is still a dark mark for any fans of the IP, the studio, or both. And so bringing up the potential for an Everquest 3 is likely to open up some old wounds. And for that, I apologize. But this is where I pivot to optimism. There was excitement about Everquest Next, and there's still hope for an Everquest 3, at least in the fans of the game. We see this every time something comes out from EG7 about a potential project using their established IPs, namely Everquest. The rumor mill gets going and we jump onto it in full force. But what kind of Everquest 3 would you want? A remake that follows the tenets of Everquest, or something completely new, like Everquest Next? Could you play Everquest with action combat, for example? What about the sandbox features that were promised in EQN? What would an EQ3 look like to you? Let us all know down below and we can kind of commiserate over what could have been. My name is Redbeard Flynn. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you really want to take a look at why we do still play Everquest, I made this video over here. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.